The Rock Metal Podcast, episode 13 with Sonic Resurrection. All right, Rock Metal Nation, I've got on the line today Robert Resurrected of Sonic Resurrection, an LA rock band with a catalog of commercial hits. And I'm super stoked to have Robert on so we can talk a bit more about Sonic Resurrection and play a couple of their tracks. So, Robert, welcome to the Rock Metal Podcast.
Thanks for having us. Dig it, man.
Absolutely. So, Robert, why don't you tell Rock Metal Nation, a bit about yourself, what got you into pursuing a life full of music?
Well, I think to start with, my older brother Jim followed a lot of early Ozzy Osbourne with Randy Rhoads, and loved Eddie Van Halen in the day, AC/DC, bands like that, even Journey, and kind of turned me on to what I guess classic rock was at the time. And over years, I picked up the bass guitar and then went to guitar and started realizing I could songwrite a bit. So got together with some talented cats, and we recorded at Scott Weiland's studio, and the rest is history. You know, we love STP and Scott Weiland, Velvet Revival, are all those guys.
Awesome story. How did, was it just, I guess, a studio up for hire? Did you end up getting to know Scott Weiland a bit? How did that end up playing out, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, not at all. So it's a small world when you're in that circle. So it's like the DeLeo brothers, Scott Weiland. We introduced with their producer Rocco Guarino in LA last year. And we had the privilege of working with him on a couple initial tracks we pulled out of about 11 demos we were creating at that time. And lo and behold, we found that the cuts were so good, we flew into Sterling Audio in New York to get them mastered with their lead engineer, Ted Jensen. And the next thing you know, we really started seeing we had some kind of lift or viability commercially to the project.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. I mean, it starts off just older brother Jim, follows a lot of Ozzy, Eddie Van Halen, those what is now classic rock, which I think is hilarious, right? But either way, what is now classic rock, even I hear Motley Crue now on the classic rock stations, and it's just like, okay, what next? Nirvana's going to be on the classic rock station? But either way, picked up the bass, then moved on to guitar, and then I guess kind of interesting thing is realizing you can write songs when you're on the guitar, maybe not so much on bass, but either way, can write some songs, get into that Scott Weiland studio, and then next thing you know, you're flying to New York City, getting your tracks mastered, seeing some lift. I mean, really, you mentioned earlier, Robert, about finding some really great guys. What's the story behind how the core of you found each other?
I love telling it, actually, and I'm glad you asked. Like, our drummer I've known since I was 8 years old, and we actually went to elementary school, middle school, high school together. So we kind of knew of each other, and we certainly played a few of those, proverbial garage bands and coffee houses and open mics in our high school years. And then flash forward many years later, after we're out of college, we decided to regroup and form a band. And I was looking at some ads that were out of LA based at the time, and I ran into this vocalist who identified with Velvet Revolver, Scott Weiland, STP. Well, heck, we knew we had to give him a shot, and he was giving us a shot too, frankly. Very talented. And the next thing you know, we're literally every single week fast rifling through a brand new demo. I'd flip him the music and the composition, and he would literally come up with the vocal and the melody. And it's a new song every week. It just started hitting rapid fire for about 2.5 months.
Oh, wow. That's really good. I bet that was a good feeling, too.
It was incredible, to be honest with you. It was like such a birth and a genesis of a band that came so quickly and so unexpectedly, I might say, as well. We were transitioning out of an old project, and then lo and behold, we ran into this vocalist, and it just really clicked. A lot easier than the last project, really.
Yeah, it's like the singer can sometimes just change everything. Once you get the right vocalist in there, it's like, boom. You get the work ethic, you get the sound, you get everything.
The whole package, man. Pure pro.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Now, speaking of pro, the name of the band, Sonic Resurrection, what inspired Sonic Resurrection?
So this came out of the genesis of a few ideas we were kicking around for the band name that were very close. And then conceptually, we think we really kind of rallied around the concept of rebirthing something special in music that we grew up with. Some of it classic rock. In my particular case, I identify with the 90s and 2000s kind of alternative grunge Seattle sound. So when you put that all in a melting pot, we thought, boy, for marketing purposes, not that we're sellouts, but we were thinking it really people could identify with the concept of it being rebirthed and being purposeful in that rebirth. So we went with resurrection.
Yeah, purposeful in that rebirth. And I mean, if you're not thinking about how you are going to position yourself in the marketplace, then, well, I mean, you could always just jam out at coffee shops on the weekends. That's fine. But if you want to be somewhere, you are entering the marketplace. Therefore, you should know how you're positioning yourself and branding yourself. So it's all very smart stuff. All the big acts do it and have done it, or have eventually record labels hired to do it for them or whatever. And, you know, no shame in that if you're going to be doing it as a business, because if it ain't making money, it's not a business. It's a hobby.
Amen.
So, love it. When you guys get together to write songs, what's that process like? I know you mentioned a little bit of it, like you guys had some tracks already, singer came in, things were really moving. But what's the process like when you guys are writing tracks?
It's really inorganic to most of the bands you may have interviewed in your podcast, and certainly that I grew up with, reading about their process in interviews. So I'm Denver-based, I'm the guitarist, and I write all the music. So every drum beat, every track that goes into a song piece, every arrangement basically all comes out of my studio here in Denver. I flip it via the internet over to the drummer just so he can familiarize with the sequencing, the arrangement, the beats per minute, and just the treatment, like the syncopation, etc. Then our vocal separately in workflow is coming up with entirely on his own the lyric and melody. And when you put it all together, it's really easy. It's all internet. So we were flipping tracks, gigabit files. While the time it's all done, I'll do the final mix down, editing and mastering, and then boom, a song is born in less than a week.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Especially with the internet these days, a lot of times people think, oh, we need to get together every single week and make sure we're all together. And it's like, well, are you productive though? And you can easily be massively productive, as you're proving, by not even being in the same city every week, and by using the internet, by using your sheer tenacity, bam, songs are born, places are being had, names are being taken, asses are being kicked, all those things. Or maybe you kick ass and then take names, or take names and kick ass. I don't know. That's another podcast altogether, I think, right? But speaking of this genius, let's go ahead and get into the first song, Salvation.
I've tried Come and set me free.
Okay, coming back from Salvation, Robert, let's talk about Salvation. What is the story behind Salvation?
Thank you for asking. It's very special, near and dear of one of a couple songs in our mix. Our vocalist had the privilege of growing up with a family who had some challenges, let's say. Didn't come from a financially privileged background or even education privileged. Kind of street, very street cred. And all the things you'd hear about a band that's been marketed well, this guy lived the real deal. And the song Salvation is kind of a testimony, originally written in inspiration to his father for having been not living on the right side of the law for many, many years in a number of rather felonious activities. And he wanted to send a testimony to his father to recognize that he recognized in his father's journey to try and bridge and change and be a better person. So that's the inspiration, how it started. And when we went into Scott Weiland's studio last summer, we kind of were inspired because at that point we knew Scott Weiland had been dealing with, unfortunately, a lot of substance abuse challenges over his life. And we felt rather inspired to also posthumously dedicate it to Scott last December on his passing. We shot all the tracking was done at Lavish Studio in Burbank, and that's in the Los Angeles area. And we shot all the music video, like the commercial proof of concept music videos there as well. It was an overnighter that Rocco Guarino, and I also want to credit our videographer who were a part of that. And basically to say that you'd be surprised that songs like that, while they talk about addiction, at the end of the day, they can really motivate people to look at their lives, a hard look at it, and try and make themselves just a little better. And our vocalist is very, positive about that energy in the song, even though there's some elements of addiction and struggle in it.
Yeah, no, I like that. One of the reasons that I love metal is its ability to take dark emotions and dark places in time and either stay there and it's really dark and it's nasty, or what you guys are doing, which is taking that and saying, hey, you know what? You can turn your life around. Here's something to really motivate you to, at some point, become a better person, become a better version of yourself. And as you were saying, the vocalist grew up with some challenges, not exactly being privileged in the way that, I'm guessing he's from the States, as the American dream, so to speak, or the American reality, as we always like to say a lot of times. An inspiration to his father for, okay, yeah, maybe at the time he wasn't always living on the right side, but did he try to become on the better side, and what did he do in order to do that? I think it's a massive topic, and also, as well as you said, posthumously dedicated in a way as well to Scott Weiland.
Yeah.
And it's great. I'm really glad that you guys are doing that, to use that gift that you have for creating music that's going to be driving into people's ears, that's going to be going into their brain subconsciously. They have no control over the words that you're putting into their brain and what you're doing with that. I know that sounds really deep and heavy, getting into some serious psychological stuff here, but what you're doing then is giving them a reason to uplift themselves. I think that's really beautiful.
Well, thank you for that, and I have to credit again our vocalist completely. It was his baby from the time I flipped the demo musically over, and I was just so shocked with what came back. It was very profound. I'm actually sweating just remembering the inspiration behind the song while I'm in this podcast. It's just very moving. And I'll also say in brief that, our vocalist's father happened to be a Hell's Angel. So to give you a rough idea of that background, the last 2 years our vocalist was trying to get through high school, let's say. He was living literally in a UPS truck. So it was kind of pretty serious stuff. He's lived the journey, man. It's not just some bullshit bio thing you see with some bands out there. It's the real deal, man. It comes straight from our hearts.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Yeah. Moving right into the next beautiful thing, let's go ahead and listen to the next track, What's Going Down?
Pick a fight to prove you're right. I'm breeding hate, it lies in wait. Your bullies' crimes, you'll pay the price. It's all on you, the guns on you. Yeah! And when you
broken heart. Sits at home and she plans a way for the day she can heal her scars. Tells her mother that she's gonna make it right soon. Tells her father that she's gonna fix it right. No one sees the monster slowly building up inside. Yeah! And when you feel the pain, you get back 10 times another day. You think you're in control, but you made that girl that will explode. What's going down? What's going down? What's going down? Yeah, yeah. What's going down? What's going down? What's going down? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bang, bang. You're dead. And when you feel the pain, you get back 10 times another day. You think you're in control, but you made that girl that will explode. What's going down? What's going down? What's going down? Yeah, yeah. What's going down? What's going down? What's going down? Yeah, yeah. What's going down?
Okay, coming back from What's Going Down, Robert, what's going down? I mean, let's talk about the story of what's going down. So what's going down, man?
So what is going down? Again, our vocalist just comes out with like the most socially relevant lyrics sometimes, and this one came inspired from all of the pandemic we've seen of gun violence in the U.S. You know, people out there with semi-automatics blowing out people in movie theaters here near Aurora, Colorado. People up in Sandy Hook, you know, all over the country we're hearing of this pandemic, and no one seems to be able to get their hands around how to solve for it. So the way our band approached this particular subject matter was looking at it from a social narrative point of view. So the main character in the song happens to be a guy named Johnny, who we readapted in the studio version to be a female protagonist. And basically she was done wrong by a man in her past, basically done wrong in a romantic kind of way and in a kind of violent way. And then flash forward in the song a little later, and she's wildly successful, completely standing on her own financially, professionally, well-educated, and she's circling back in her life to kind of, I guess, confront the issue a little bit by exacting a little revenge on this SOB that did her wrong in the past. So it's a very violent post-log to the lyric, but at the same time, it's just showing that women are able to overcome when they've been wronged, and in fact to really show that they can shine and they can do more with themselves and not let those events set them back. And in fact, at the end of it, we gave her a little twist just to kind of exact a little revenge, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, no, I like that. I think one of the most poignant things we have to come to terms with in just about any society really is that if we let women be free, they are far stronger than a man will ever be. Far stronger. And I think that's why they've been kept down for so long, is out of just a jealous fear, in all honesty. I mean, sexually, if you let a woman go, it's almost scary if you've never seen it for the first time, right? But everything, I mean, they desire education, they desire to be financially well off, they desire so many things, and yet a lot of times they're stuck with some schmuck who's lazy, and they spend most of their life just wishing that they could get out of it so they could go be free. And it's ridiculous, right? But definitely another beautiful topic, starting off with the pandemic of gun violence in the U.S. and a lot of situations there where it's just absolute nutso, and it seems like the only response is, well, let's just buy more guns. Okay,
right.
That helped the first time around. And then going into the social narrative of the guy named Johnny, which we then reframed as a woman. So excellent job there, and who was done wrong by a man in her past, but she moved on from that. She's now standing on her own. Another element of positive psychology there, in that, well, she got an education, therefore she became smarter, therefore she is now much more financially set. And not to say that money solves everything, but it's hard to have a bad day in the back of a limo in a $2,000 suit. Just,
Amen. John, I'll tell you, I have to credit the team that helped visually begin to create some of the video content around this. We haven't released, neither have we even edited much of it yet, to be candid. But it was shot in the LA area. We started with the old Tom Jones's house in Bel Air. If you know the guy, Tom Jones, something about Wonderful to Be Loved by You back in the 70s, that cat.
Yeah.
So we rented his mansion, and he had like a beautiful pool in the backyard. We shot at night. It was a great scene. We hired a rather talented actress who did a couple Guns N' Roses videos. Her name is Alina Savastikova. She's out of L.A. Beautiful woman, very, very skilled in what she does, bringing this commanding presence of a strong woman into the kind of video portrayal that we were trying to create. And then ultimately we took some shots of the Pacific Coast Highway in the evening to kind of show at the end, while she finished her revenge on the bad guy, she's picking up our vocalist as a kind of a little nice next step in life to carry on in a positive way. So I'll be sure to get some of that content over to you in time, and we'll see if you see it's worthy to put out there for the folks listening.
Absolutely, yeah. Any links that you want in the show notes, I'll go ahead and put them in there. Any music videos, things like that, which brings me to my next question, like music videos, new tracks, things like that. What kind of exciting news does Sonic Resurrection have coming down the pipeline for Rock Metal Nation to pay attention to?
Sure. Thank you for asking. So we've released our content out on iTunes. You can find us under Sonic Resurrection. Just pump that in and you'll find Salvation and what's going down there. We also have a third song we cut at the Paul Reed Smith studio in Los Angeles last summer. And that was basically a kind of unplugged version of our song Heaven's Calling. So those 3 songs are now commercially released for sale. You'll also find some kind of sneak peeks of video content on our Facebook pages. We also have a rather large following on our Twitter account. That's at Sonic Band Fan. And you'll see just tons of content out there as well to kind of peruse and get to know the band a little better.
Fantastic. So that's going to be my last question, is how Rock Metal Nation can find out more about you. It sounds like they can go to iTunes, they can go to Facebook, and they can also go to Twitter. Do you guys have a .com or any kind of a landing page that has everything situated together?
Yeah, and that was the last kind of little piece there, is we do have a direct website, sonicresurrection.com, and you can join our mailing list there as well as see all the uplinks to our video and audio content. You can also buy direct through us. We get a little bit more of a percentage in that way, but hey, whatever works for you, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Rock Metal Nation, head over to iTunes, pick up those tracks you just heard today, plus the third track as well, which is going to be good if you really enjoyed the first 2 that you heard here. You can find them on Facebook if that's your thing. You can find them on Twitter if that's your thing. And also as well, you can head over to sonicresurrection.com, sign up for a mailing list so that they can mail you directly and let you know what's going on. So very much appreciate you coming on, Robert. Very much appreciate you sharing your creativity with Rock Metal Nation. And unless you have anything else you want to throw out there, just wanted to say rock on, my good friend.
Well, John, we hope to be back. We have plenty more content if you may have an interest. God bless, man. We really appreciate your support and that of all your listeners. Live well, brothers and sisters.
Cheers.
Pick a fight to prove you're right. I'm breeding hate. It lies in wait. Your bullets crimes. You pay the price. It's all on you.
All right, Rock Metal Nation, hopefully you just found your new favorite band in Sonic Resurrection. Big thanks again for them for coming on and sharing their music with us. Make sure to head to www.therockmetalpodcast.ca to check out all the information from the show you just heard today. And until then, rock on, Rock Metal Nation.